How do everybody? Hey, how is everybody? Hopefully all is well, Darksiders. So I want to ask you a question. Al here, by the way, if you are new to the channel. How rude of me not to introduce myself. So I want to know what your feedback is on this. So please make sure you watch this whole video. It will be short and sweet, but I gotta know what you are thinking about my thinking about this new show. So we're huge fans of Into the Badlands here, and I found a new show that I think that if you like ITB, if you're an ITB fan, it's crazy because this show reminds me so much of ITB, yet it is very, very different. And that is the show Watchmen. To me, Watchmen gives me an ITB feel. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Al, are you crazy? How is Watchmen like Into the Badlands? So go with me here and just let me know what you think about what I'm sharing, all right? Here's the thing. It is not the same show. It does not have the same martial arts execution that ITB was really known for, which was freaking groundbreaking, man. I mean, to this... All right, let me not get off on a rabbit trail here because you guys know that I will. You know, man. You know we love ITB. To this day, there's no kind of martial arts execution on TV like ITV. Woo-wee! Man, it still holds up to this day. But the show Watchmen. So the show Watchmen reminds me a lot of Into the Badlands. So not from the martial arts aspect, even though it does have some great action, but it's the story building aspect that makes Watchmen so reminiscent of ITB for me. It feels the same to me, even though it's a very different story, and even though it's a very different setting. It's not set in a dystopian future, but there's something about the elements of Watchmen that gives me that same kind of feeling that I felt when I was watching ITB. Now, I think there's a lot of different reasons for this, and this is the stuff that I want you guys to think about and let me know if, like, yeah, I get what you're saying, Al. This resonates with me, or you're tripping, Al. I don't really see it. So, number one are the characters in this. So, the characters in Watchmen are very unique. They all have an air of mystique about them. They're very well written and individualized characters, so there's a lot to get into with the different individuals that we see within the story of Watchmen, which is phenomenal. But I feel the same way about ITB. One of the unique things about Into the Badlands were the characters on that show and how uniquely they were positioned as different players within that narrative, within the story, or within the world of Into the Badlands. They all kind of had this unique slant, and there was always this air of kind of mystery about all of them. Really, you never really knew what was going on with a lot of these characters until, of course, you got later on into the seasons and things like that, and they became more fleshed out, and you kind of had an idea of what their dispositions were. But even throughout the show of Into the Badlands, motivations changed and characters developed, and I feel like we kind of getting the same thing with Watchmen. We've got these characters, which is really an amazing job that they've done within these first, 3 episodes. They really have kind of introduced all these characters that have an air of mystique about them, but at the same time feel very familiar. They feel very connected to us, the viewer, at least to me. Like when I look at the Looking Glass, I feel like I know him in some sense. So when I look at Angela, Sister Night, I feel like I know her in some sense. And then all of the other different characters within Watchmen, they feel very familiar, which is, again, it's a phenomenal job when you think about it, because we've only really had 3 episodes of the show. But it is the way that these characters have been written and developed so far within the Watchmen story that really kind of makes you feel connected or interested in who they are. And ITB had that same flair, right? It had that same pull. The characters were so interesting. They were so fascinating that it really drew you in, and you just loved who they were as individuals within the story. Outside of just the martial arts and the amazing things that all of these different characters could do. So I really feel like one thing that Watchmen has in common with ITB are really kind of very interesting, unique, and intriguing characters, and it gives me that ITB vibe. So that's one aspect of the show that to me is very reminiscent of Into the Badlands. Again, let me know what you think about what I'm sharing here. Another aspect, which is kind of crazy because it's kind of different, but it's not, but it is the world building in Watchmen. Watchmen is not set in a dystopian future, yet it feels like there are some parts of this show that are a bit dystopian in their outlook, even though it's not officially set within a dystopian future like Into the Badlands is. But I think it is the uniqueness of the world really is the parallel that I get between Watchmen and Into the Badlands. So when you were watching ITB, the world building at ITB is phenomenal, man. I mean, you can't help but get excited about it. It's crazy, right? Because the show is no longer airing, but it's so good. When you just think about how they flesh that world out and how they position all of the different things within the world of Into the Badlands, it's an amazing show. And I kind of feel that way, right, about Watchmen. Watchmen has all of these really cool kind of unique elements within the world that really sets it apart, which makes it something very different. It feels kind of fresh and kind of new, but very connected to something that we saw from Into the Badlands, even though they are very different in their builds. It is the newness, the freshness of the different worlds that we have in Into the Badlands and that we have in Watchmen that really reminds me of the two shows connectively. So when I'm watching Watchmen, I feel so immersed in the world, and I'm just always interested in all the different elements of what's going on in the world, like the fascinating phone booth where you can make a call to Dr. Manhattan on Mars. It's just crazy. And ITB has kind of all of these different places and elements in the world, the Meridian Chamber and how that relates to different things going on in the world. So the world building in these two feel very similar as well. So I get that feeling of Into the Badlands when I'm watching Watchmen for that reason as well. And then the writing, man. The writing in Watchmen is phenomenal. The way that they're telling this story, especially in relationship to it building on or within the source material from the original comics, is fantastic. And if you're a fan of the original comics, I don't know how you can be disappointed with Watchmen, because to me it's paying major respect. And I've read the comics, I'm reading it again. It's paying major respect to the source material, but at the same time giving you a new and expansive story and mixing, right? It's mixing the old and the new characters together in such a good way that you cannot help but love how well these episodes and these characters and these stories have been written. But it's the same thing, right, with Into the Badlands. It's so interesting. They write these characters so well. The stories are written so well that when you blend the world building and the writing and the characters together with Into the Badlands, you get this unique experience, right? You get this unique show that is poised to bring you a level of immersion that you don't really have in a whole bunch of other TV shows. And I feel like Watchmen promotes that same feeling, that same connection when you are watching Watchmen. So there are a lot of similarities to these shows, yet they are very different. And I will grant you that. If you are saying, well, hold on, Al, hold fast, hold on, man. Now, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not saying that they're the same show. What I'm saying is that they have elements. They tap into kind of an emotional baseline. For me, anyway. Maybe you feel differently, but for me, they tap into an emotional baseline that's very similar in each show, and it makes it so immersive that you really enjoy the show. I also think that the final thing I'll share here about Watchmen and ITB, even though Watchmen does this to a greater degree than Into the Badlands does, is there are a lot of nuances of things to see in Watchmen that are outside the dialogue. I mean, literally, I mean to see visually. They are showing you things within the picture or the story. There are different things to look at. There are different things to kind of really consume visually that help to move the story along, but also to help kind of build the tension, the scope, the scale, the feel of the story. They do such a really good job of that. They especially did that in this last episode of Watchmen. There were some things that were just glaring. They were saying, here we go, this is homage to the source material. But then there were other things that were a little more subtle. The choice of a camera angle, the choice of the different elements of an image that just, you were just like, wow. I was like, wow, this thing is fantastic. But Into the Badlands, it does the same thing. It does the same thing. So with each show, Into the Badlands and Watchmen, you really have to pay attention to what you're seeing because there are a lot of visual cues that you might not miss if you're only focused on the dialogue. And that's really, really good storytelling, right? When you have all of these different elements working together, when you have the performances, when you have the well-written characters, when you have the cinematography, when you have the world building, and all these things are working together, the amazing story, and they all kind of work together to tell or depict or bring us this amazing immersive experience. And that's what really good TV and movies is. It is about the immersion factor. You know, I talk a lot. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm a little bit excited. You can tell about that. And it is one of the reasons why Lord of the Rings is probably one of, if not the best and immersive franchise we've ever seen, because everything within how that story is told, not just the acting and the writing, comes together to bring us this connective, amazing work. And I feel like we see that with Watchmen. Watchmen's fantastic, but I feel like the same thing with Into the Badlands. Now, if you have not seen Into the Badlands and you're wondering, well, what am I talking about? I don't know how you could have not seen it. You clicked on the video probably because of the title. Then you need to watch it. And by the way, you can watch the whole season on Amazon Prime. From what I'm hearing, Netflix doesn't have all of season 3, but I believe Amazon Prime does. We're huge fans of Watchmen. Let me end up by saying this, you guys. I have not heard anything because someone's going to ask me, have I heard anything about the renewal of the show? I have not heard anything about the renewal of the show. I also want to add that I did speak to Daniel Wu in October over on Instagram, and I'm hoping to try and get him maybe to do something live with us in November. I don't know, no promises. He said that maybe he might have some time in November, but he didn't make me any promises. And you guys know that he's doing a lot of stuff, man. So, but make sure you connect with him on Instagram so you can find out a lot of kind of what he's going on, what he's got going on, and what he's into. Anyway, so those are my thoughts about that. Guys, let me know what you think about what I shared. I really love Watchmen, and I think that it really does give me that kind of feel that I felt when I was watching ITB. If you are new here, you have happened to have stumbled upon the best community on YouTube, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button and all of the notification bells, and make sure that you do that because you got to connect with us on Sundays. We go live every Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and my goodness, it's the best time in the world. For me to be able to hang out with the Darksiders is absolutely amazing, and I know that you will enjoy it as well. If you like TV and film, make sure you connect with us and make sure that you're there and all that kind of good stuff on Sunday. All right, guys, I am done. I'm going to go grab something to eat. I'll see you on the next video. Tomorrow we will be talking about Watchmen episode 3 on the channel. Peace!